Okay, so the other medium I work in is watercolor, and I organize my watercolors similar to my oils. I have them in like a fishing tackle box, and I just have them sorted by the hue. I typically have my palettes of watercolor on plates. I like working off the china plate or the ceramic plate as opposed to plastic. I like the way that the pigment flows better. So one of the things too, that when you're working with watercolors and you're dealing with this much detail, is you want to have magnification to help you actually see much more clear. It's a magnifier. So I actually have these glasses that they're like surgical glasses, and this has a magnifier on the end. So when I'm looking through the glasses, it magnifies it, and it's a much larger image. This little brush looks really big when I'm painting with these magnifiers on, and that really helps get that nice crisp detail. One of the fun things about watercolors that you don't get necessarily with oils is that, and you can necessarily have transparent as well as opaque pigments, but the transparency in the watercolors is what gives a lot of depth. So typically when I'm painting, it's not a one pass and done. It's typically a series of brush strokes that I'm doing to get the actual color and intensity of the particular object I'm doing. In this case, I'm actually finishing up a painting, the final touches on a watercolor I've been working on for several months. This is a slender leaf false foxglove. And like I said, this is a watercolor I've been working on for several months. It's kind of like when you're painting on this, it's almost like a surgeon, because I keep tracing paper over the paper. You don't want to get any of the oil from your hand on the paper because it would yellow over time. And so that's a way to protect the paper from your hand. So the only thing that touches the paper is your brush with your pigment. And then just like I did on the oils, you want to do a test strip of your color, because you really don't know what the color is going to look like on your final painting until you've actually put it onto the surface that you're going to paint it on. This is the same paper. This is a hot press paper and arches, hot press paper. And that's the same as what I'm working on here. So I do a test. Obviously I've done a test flower, test stem, and then also I have test strips of the full palette of colors that I work with. And this helps me understand what colors I want to work with on my palette before I actually put them. So I work with Daniel Smith pigments. I work with M. Graham. But again, regardless of what mixture or what pigments you're using, you always want to do a test strip to make sure what it's going to look like on your paper. I do typically what's called a dry brush stroke. So my brush, I'd have it in water, I dry it a little bit, I pull up a little bit of the pigment, and then I apply it to the surface. And this is a number 0 Raphael brush. And it gives you a nice fine tip as opposed to going to a double or triple 0. You can get a nice point on the brush, and then you can work with it and get a nice fine line as well.